What is up, guys? This is the B-Mac. That's Kyle. Today, he's going to go through and explain to me what makes One Piece so good. I don't get it. Anime, manga stuff is just not me. But I have a hard time about getting excited over things that aren't sports. Movies do it occasionally. Sometimes TV shows. But he's going to explain to me today why One Piece does it for him. So go for it, man. Like, I know there's how many episodes of this? How many? It's been going on for how long?
Well, let me tell you that tomorrow, probably by the time you guys are watching this, there will be 982 chapters. And there's about 50 less episodes. It's awesome. It's the best. It's a 20-minute pop. I think the best thing about it, honestly, is, it sounds kind of cliche and all, but the story. The story is so good. And why it is so good is because something that's been running that long, like maybe The Simpsons, Family Guy, shows like that, or South Park even.
Yeah, those shows have been going forever.
This is the same kind of way where it will take something from the first episode and it will not forget it. And you will have completely forgot about it because in real time, it's been a long ass time, 20 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, to that point, like those other shows, a lot of the times don't really follow a season arc, right?
Yeah,
like they can just kind of do whatever they want episode to episode. Whereas this, it's got a storyline. So it's got it's got not just a storyline, but I would imagine so many characters, it's got so many storylines to follow. And to do that for 982 chapters, I mean, they got to be doing something right.
It's super crazy because and what a lot of people's complaint about it is obviously the length. If you want to get into it like now, it's a little intimidating. 900 and however many episodes. That's 20 minutes each. That's like a lot of time.
A year.
It's a long ass time. I think it's like 4 or 5 straight days or something like that. I did the math not long ago. And what's super rad about it is that's kind of the best part is because no details forgotten, one, and two, each thing matters, and you start to realize that as you kind of go through the story, as you get the first few villains, and they seem like, just kind of goofy throwaway villains, like the whole show back when this thing first started versus when, what I just showed you, where you're like, how is he not dead? Where before it's just kind of goofy antics and running around, but those characters that were around for the goofy antics are still prevalent now, and they're growing kind of off screen parallel to the main characters. And it's just super rad. Like nothing's forgotten ever. It's just super neat. And then like each individual, the way they structure the story is they go from island to island, and each island is kind of its own unique thing, whether they're trying to run away from somebody or fight something or rescue someone. But even if it's like the story being as simple as that, at face value, there's other things that happen. You find out the ship's broken. And the ship has a deeper meaning to some people than it does others. And, you can't keep sailing if you got a broken boat because then you could all die. And just things like that. And then it just gets so deep, and each one and that's why it's so long, is because it fleshes everything out almost to an obnoxious extent. But then when you get to the end and you have that payoff, it means more because you get every other character's perspective. It's not just like, today on Family Guy, it's Peter's episode. He's going to run around and do this, where each thing matters. Like some people are like, man, they kind of forgot about this dude and blah, blah, blah. And this guy hasn't done much lately. And, Oda doesn't forget. You're going to get it. Something's going to happen with that guy. And he's kind of gonna lull you to sleep with it until, it's really just something special. Where there's a character they introduced. I think it's like 60 episodes in, and what it does is it kind of just sets the hierarchy of the entire world. Where imagine Harry Potter, right? Just to kind of gauge it for people, is in like his first year, right? And he's kind of just running around. He's at a restaurant. Some people start a fight. Fucking Voldemort kicks in the door and he's like, yo, I'm here. What's up? That's what happens in One Piece. This dude just shows up and just ruins everything. And then he's like, all right, I'm bored. I'm leaving. And that's the end of it. Like, it's just and he's one of 7 other people that are that strong. And then there's another tier of villains or enemies or just people that are on top of that. And it just really scales the world back then so that you can realize how much, bigger the world is for the characters. And what it does is it makes you root, and it always makes them seem like the underdog because they're just 9 people on this tiny boat going through a world where this dude is on basically a raft and shows up and chops 4 boats in half with his sword. Like, it's just really crazy. And like we already talked about the length of it, we've seen that guy do that. We've seen him swing his sword one other time, and that is it.
So he's done a total of 2 things, and he's just like the baddest dude.
And he's just been hyped for that long. And that's kind of the thing is like, everyone always likes to kind of power scale or guess or like, this guy can beat this dude because he's done this. This guy's done that. No one has any idea about this guy because he hasn't really done shit. Like, he's never flexed. He's just kind of wandering around and messing stuff up. And it's so dope.
Okay, so the one that I kind of know is Dragon Ball. So put it in like so what makes them different?
Have you seen Dragon Ball, like OG, tiny little Goku Dragon Ball?
It's been a while, but yeah.
It's more like that than it is Dragon Ball Z. Because Dragon Ball Z, there's very rarely any carryover as far as the story goes. Like when something new starts happening, this is the bad guy, and this is all you got to worry about. It's just that. Where in Dragon Ball, he's kind of just going through being a kid, being goofy. And that's like you said, you were like, when we were watching the video, like, why does this look like Dragon Ball? Well, Dragon Ball was Oda's favorite. So, Goku has his little tail. The main character of One Piece is Monkey D. He's Monkey D. Luffy. Same kind of thing. They both wear the red, and then they got the blue pants, the same kind of swag. It's very similar. That's why they look alike. It's kind of paying homage to his predecessor, Toriyama, who really there would be no anime in the West if it wasn't for Toriyama, because people fucking, like you said, you don't mess with a lot of these shows, but you watch Dragon Ball. Mm-hmm. But this feels much more like OG Dragon Ball, where in OG Dragon Ball, each Dragon Ball was its own little adventure, right?
Yeah. So
like originally he was going around with Bulma and getting the Dragon Balls and things like that, and 1-star ball is this, 3-star ball. Oh man, we gotta go fight this giant ass pterodactyl, and then you start building the overarching story where you're doing these little things, but you're also keep running into the Red Ribbon Army, or you keep running into tiny little bullshit Emperor Pilaf, and it just kind of starts adding things together, and they're never not around.
Yeah, it's not like Cell Saga where it's just
beat Cell, Cell's gone, that's it. Boo shows up, beat Boo, that's it.
You fight the androids and then it's Cell. All right. Yeah.
It's I mean that kind of builds to it. The Frieza thing, there's like a hierarchy kind of thing, but by and large, when they're done with a guy, and all that stuff is super dope. Like, don't get me wrong, I really like Dragon Ball. Like, especially the Frieza saga is one of the best things. Like, it's just so good. But
see, I do like cartoons.
You like no, but that's kind of the difference though, is because in Dragon Ball, and that's kind of Dragon Ball Z, it's kind of my complaint about it is they get too strong. It's
very linear.
Yeah, it's very win or die trying kind of thing. And then once that person dies, it always ends up being Goku. Goku's gonna save the day. And it just gets kind of lame. I mean, even if it is about him, like Dragon Ball is about him, it's a little kid, so the stakes feel higher, and everybody can kind of see this little kid and imagine, man, wouldn't it be sweet if I had an extending pole and a flying cloud that I could hop on and shit like that. And it's just the milestones. Yeah, well, that's not even in Dragon Ball, but it's just the milestones felt so much cooler in Dragon Ball because the Kamehameha wave, like, holy shit, what is that? This kid just run around punching and kicking people, and now he's shooting energy beams. Where in Dragon Ball, the stakes just feel so absurd. It doesn't feel real. You know what I'm saying? Kind of.
Yeah, I get you. So
It doesn't seem like as adventurous. It's just more action heavy. And that's One Piece. The action is good, but it's not the best quality of it. It's a lot of the story and learning like how this piece is going to eventually fit here. You'll get introduced to a guy who looks kind of neat, but you don't know who he is. Or you find a guy who you haven't seen in the story's time, 2 years, and you find out that this dude's got like had a real tragic 2 years, and he's just in a shit place, and it's super neat. It's just in that sense.
But I guess my next question is, if it's 982 in, I mean, does he have an end in sight? Do you know?
So where we are now is the Four Emperors arc. And what those guys are, okay, so there's just so damn much, bro. All right, so remember I told you the dude that be chopping the ships and shit in half, and he's barely flexed. He's only shown up twice. All right, his name is Mihawk. Hawkeye Mihawk, right? He's got a giant-ass sword, swings it around, and just cuts everything in half.
All right.
Well, and when he first shows up, Zoro, I've told you about him. He's Luffy's basically second in command kind of thing. Okay. When that guy shows up in episode like 60, Zoro's dream is to become the world's strongest swordsman, right? This dude Mihawk fights him with like a butter knife. Like not even that. Like this knife is like, that big. Itty bitty. And Zoro's using like his full like arsenal of skill, and he shits on him with this tiny knife. And Zoro says some real rad shit because that's just what Zoro does because he's the coolest goddamn character in the show. And he turns around and opens up his chest, and he's like, it's a shame for a swordsman to have a cut on his back. And then Mihawk's like, wonderful. So he pulls out his big bastard sword and just cuts his ass down the middle.
Oh, that's why he had the scar.
That's why he's got the scar. He's still got the scar. And that's from, years ago in our time. So that guy's one of the 7 warlords, right? So above the 7 warlords, those guys are all pirates, is the emperors. And the emperors are, like I had just said, Luffy's brother was on the crew of one of the emperors. And each one of them has a force, like I was just saying, like 3,000. They own, like, a lot of real estate and just the world. And they have that kind of power where they kind of govern a whole section of the world, and the government doesn't even go mess with them because it's too much. You just don't want to mess with even one of them. So, and then if you piss off 2, it's definitely all bad. And that's kind of where we're at now, is 2 of them are kind of after Luffy because he's just gone around and pissed them off and smashed up some of their shit. And the world government's freaking out because the 2 of them are like, all right, let's fucking kill this kid together. And the world government's like, yo, if these 2 team up, it could actually be the end of the world kind of thing. Like,
so they kind of have to get involved.
Yeah, and it's really rad to see what's going to happen because we've never seen even one of them fight like all out, except for that dude Whitebeard who went to go save his brother. And that dude was old as shit. Like he's on like IV bags and things like that, and then he just rips that shit off, and he punches the air, and a tidal wave fucking comes out of nowhere. Like it's just so ridiculous. It's so rad. And that's kind of the other thing too, is that the action and the powers and things like that they really morphine drip it to you. So it's not like you turn it on and it's just over the top, ridiculous, crazy. Like it starts out and everyone's kind of freaking out because you're learning things with the characters who are still new to this whole thing. And the people are freaking like, oh my God, you're rubber. What the hell is going on with that? And then it's like, oh, he ate a devil fruit. That shit's crazy. But then if you, say that to someone like me who's read and watched, since I was 16 years old, it's not that big a deal. Like it seems like everybody's got one because, when you get to the top kind of thing, like.
I need one.
Yeah, you kind of need one. And it really causes, makes a lot of cool and unique battle experiences kind of thing. Like, And then just watching this dude who doesn't really have an overpowered one like Luffy, like, okay, you can stretch your arms and shit, Mr. Fantastic style. But that dude over there, he can literally turn into sand. And he can just drain the fucking moisture out of anything. Go fight that as a rubber man. And it's like, how? He does it. He doesn't win right out, but it's really dope. It makes for super unique and awesome like scenarios. And there's people that are fire. And then there's people that can like hypnotize people, turn people into toys. It's so ridiculous. But the story is so goddamn good. Like, it's just sweet, man. It's so dope. As far as the end, well, the show was only supposed to last for about 100 chapters, right? And he was expecting, in like one of the very first episodes, Luffy says that he wants 10 people, and he literally lists all of the things that he wants. And what happened is Oda started writing these characters, and he's like, well, why would this guy want this? Why would this guy do this? And then he just starts going and going and going and going and going, because every character is just so deep. And then you get flashback stories with them, and you find out why they have these like motives that they have, and it's because, you know, the world government basically used their island to farm uranium, and they didn't know what uranium was. So then everybody on the island dies except for this one kid who's just that dude standing right there. And, you know, no one knows that story about him except for you as a reader. And you're saying like, damn, I'd fucking hate the government too. I feel it. So yeah, someone had like recently asked him like, you know, when's it going to end? You know, how much is left? You've been going for so long. It's been so good for so long kind of thing. And he said that one of the things that, like, he had this idea for the warlords, right? And that's kind of what slowed him up, is because they're all so dope in their own right. And that's kind of what he did. He started like, well, these guys would have like territory, right? Kind of like mob bosses. But he's like, but they're not even like the biggest fish in the sea. Like, there's bigger ones than that. And that's kind of what happened, is he just started fleshing everyone out so that when things happen to them, or they pop back up in the story as maybe an ally, or they pop up as they have a, you know, them and like the crew, like the main crew, the Straw Hats, Luffy's crew, they have like a light goal in mind, and they team up for a hot minute. And it's not super ridiculous, because you kind of understand where this character's coming from and why they do the things they're doing. It's super dope.
I mean, it sounds interesting. I love that you're super into it and you talk about it a lot. Yeah, I don't know, man. It really does sound cool. It's not my thing, but I think it's amazing. Like, I don't know. I always like that. I feel like me and you we're into a lot of the same stuff, but then we're also into completely different things.
Sure.
So this is one of the things that I think makes us, like, why we wanted to do this podcast to begin with. And this is one of the things I like hearing. Like, I don't know how many times we've been playing games and I've heard you talk about it, so I know some of these characters, or I just know things. Never watched it. Don't know. Yeah. I mean, the clips that you showed me before this are the first two things I've ever seen about it.
Yeah, dude. So,
it's cool,
different, man. It's just different to me. And I think part of it is because I've been watching it since I was a kid. So, you know, I don't watch as many like manga or animes or things like that anymore, but man, if he's still going, I can still keep reading it. So it's like, if he ain't giving up, neither am I. And it's still super quality, man. It's so good.
I mean, you're so far in, you got to keep going with it too. I mean, like, right? Yeah. Because I mean, you're invested in those. You get invested in them. You get emotionally invested in them.
I mean, sure, definitely. Like, I see shit happen and I'm just like, yes. Oh, it's that guy. Oh my God. I forgot about that dude. He did the thing way back then. And
me too.
That kind of just happened in one of the more recent chapters. Was some dude popped up that's one of like the fan favorites. And yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like what keeps us in sports, and it kind of hurts, you know, when you see your guy leave your team or retire, you know, it hurts a little bit, but this is still going, and it's that love and adoration you have for it. It kind of just keeps going and going. You know, you don't have to watch a Justin Verlander get traded.
Right.
I have to watch Chipper Jones retire. Dude's still going.
Well, that's kind of it too, though, right? For if you want to draw the line for sports, it's you got your Justin Verlander. We'll say Justin Verlander is the main character, but then Miguel Cabrera shows up. It's like, oh, dude, hell yeah! Now we got another thing. This guy's sweet. He's doing this and that, and then you get a backstory where it goes, to his backstory, and it's his island got invaded by fish people. And the reason he's there is because he has to make money to try and free all the people on his island. And then it cuts back, and then it's just like, yeah, I think I'll take that giant contract. Like, and they just give you a lot of depth like that, and then Justin Verlander gets traded. But you still know all that stuff about Miguel Cabrera. So maybe after Justin Verlander retires, you see Miguel Cabrera pop back up at one of Justin Verlander's restaurants or something if he has one of those. And then it's like, oh, I remember that guy. He's the dude that had the island with the fish people, and he had to try and I wonder if he freed them all. Holy shit. It's just like that kind of thing. It's super. That's a crazy, like, metaphor, like, or whatever, to try and connect the dots, but that is what the show is. Or show, whatever, any of it. It's just, it's so good. And I think that when people get intimidated by it, it is long, but you don't have to watch it all in a day or a week. Just give it a shot, man. Start trying to read it. The worst that's going to happen is that you like it, or the worst that's going to happen is you don't. And then it's not like you just watch 900 episodes of a thing you don't fucking like.
No.
You can just stop reading it if you don't like it. Like, if you get like 30, 40 chapters in and you're like, this isn't for me, that's fine. You didn't read the whole thing and you found out that you don't like it. That's fine. Why not give it a try? I've tried broccoli. I know it's not for me. So,
to your point too, is one of my biggest things. I always get kind of annoyed when people like find something like a show or something and they just like binge it all.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, man. I like to take some time in between and process stuff.
Yeah, and I will say that for this, and Game of Thrones is the same way for me. If you guys are listening on YouTube, like you probably are, down in the comments, let us know what your favorite show is to binge, and a show that you're glad you didn't binge but got to watch like on a weekly basis. Yeah. Because this and Game of Thrones for me are very unique in the sense that I got to binge most of the series, but then when I got to a certain point, I got to appreciate it on a weekly basis where, blitzing through all of it, you're just kind of going through it and getting all of it. Mm-hmm. And, oh, this happened. Oh, I got to get to the next one. This cliffhanger's killing me. I got to get to the next one. Where we talked about when Game of Thrones was, on its like 1.5, 2-year break, how some of the fan theory started sticking because people had all that anticipation and people had certain expectations for the show because of that. And then they just fell short because that happens. It didn't go according to plan. Yeah, it didn't go according to plan. And so that can happen. You don't have time to sit and ponder and wonder and set expectations for the show. You're just going through it. You're just absorbing all of it. But on a weekly basis, it's so much more satisfying because you don't get to do it all and you have to wait, and the anticipation builds and builds, and you get to keep having conversations about the thing where it's like, man, I wonder what they're going to do when this happens. I wonder what happens when they come back. I wonder what's going to happen here. Like the Avengers, like you said, when we had Matt on our podcast talking about our movie theater experiences. If you haven't checked that one out, definitely check that one out. That's a very good one. Great. Mm-hmm. But you talked about, you guys got in the car after Infinity War and you sat and just talked about it. Like, man, what are they going to do next? Everybody's dead. Like, what's going to happen now?
And you got 2 years.
And you get to do that every week when you're with One Piece because it's been going for 20 years. And even if it goes for another 5, like 5 more years of anything is still a long time. Like Breaking Bad only went for 5 years. One Piece is going to, go 5 times longer than that. Like, you still have time to hop on that train if you want. Or just start going. Start reading. Start reading it while you're pooping. Start reading it while you're chilling in bed. Like, it's an easy read.
At work.
Yeah, it's an easy read. You don't have to watch it. I prefer reading it because I think that some of the beauty of it is that from panel to panel, you get to kind of assume what happens. You can kind of inject some of your own imagination into it. It's very similar to how, just reading a book is without any pictures. where you get an idea, an image of the character from the panel, but then as it's kind of going through things, it's like, all right, so here he is with his sword, and here he is doing the attack, but there's no in between. So you can kind of imagine that. Like, does he just jump? Does he lunge? Does he spin? Does he do this? So it's up to you. It's super cool. Like, that's kind of the beauty of it. And then even better than that is, as you're reading through it, there's all anime. So if you want to see them fucking fight, go do it. Get on YouTube, search, Luffy versus whoever, Zoro versus whoever, and then there it is, right there, bam. It's so rad. It's so cool. But yeah. I mean, I could go on for another hour, but I think we better chill.
Nice. I mean, thanks, dude. I like hearing about things. Sometimes hearing about it's all I need. I don't know. But it's cool. It is. Like, I mean, I like the idea of eating a fruit. It can be great. It can be not so great.
It can be damning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, there's like physical repercussions where your body just changes. It's sweet, man. Yeah, if you guys have checked out One Piece, leave it down in the comments. Let us know how far you got, why you like it, how much you like it, or why you don't like it, any of it. We want to hear all of it. We love conversating and talking to you guys. And be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, please share it. It's free and it helps us out a ton. And leave us a like if you liked it.
Yeah. If you want to go back and comment on any of our other ones, please comment. Like you said, we like talking about the stuff. That's why we started this. So
yes,
anything, if you have a differing opinion, please, we are very open-minded. Unless you're wrong, in which case we're not.
Just like BMAC. I'm Kyle, and I love anime and cartoons. And he's BMAC, and he hates cartoons. Remember to love each other, love yourselves, and stay adventurous.
We out.